Hello, welcome to the Writing Gals. Tonight we're going to be talking about how to launch your book. And we are going to turn pretty much immediately to our expert on the subject and let Victorine share her launch schedule with you.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, so basically what I did maybe a few months ago is I was watching other books and looking at Amazon and how it treats books. And so I created a launch schedule based on Amazon and trying to work their algorithms. Because if you look at Amazon and you look at how it treats books, what it does is if you have a big spike in your rank and a lot of sales in one day, and then the next day it goes way down, Amazon basically ignores that. And it says, okay, well, they must have had a big promotion that day. And so Amazon does not help you promote that book afterwards. But if you have a slow rise in rank and you increase your sales day by day slowly, then Amazon will see that and they will pick up on that and start promoting your book. And so the launch schedule that I created is just based off of that basic principle of trying to increase your rank each day, a little each day, so that over time, so I did like a 10-day schedule. I typed it all out. Over time, you want that rank to increase. And on the 10th day, you want your biggest promotion. So in the very beginning, what I do is I click to put the book up and I don't do a single thing. And then a day later, I will go in once that link is live and I can have something to give out to people. I'll go in and give that link to my Scream team, which is just a bunch of people that I gave advanced reader copies of my book to a couple weeks before launch. So kind of my schedule starts 2 weeks before I launch, where I hand out a bunch of art copies of my book. But once I get that link, I'll tell them, okay, you can go and put your review up, but just don't tell anybody about the book, because I really want it to just naturally be out there for a couple of days, let the page populate, and people will find your book at the very beginning, because I don't know why, but Amazon will show your book to some people in the very beginning, because I always get sales on books without telling a single person that it's live. Not tons of sales, but that's okay in the very beginning, because I want to start it slow and let it grow naturally and a little over time. So in the very beginning, I will tell my Scream team about it, let them go post some reviews. I will add the book to Author Central, and I also added in to go and put up some promotion, set up some promotions for later on in your launch, like eReader News Today or Bargain Booksy. I found that pricing at 99 cents at the beginning works really well for me, and putting my book in Kindle Select right away so that I can get some promotion from Kindle Unlimited really helps me. So that's what I do. I launch at 99 cents, put it in Kindle Select, and then I wait a few days, let those sales come in, and then I will slowly roll out more advertising for it. So some things that I do is I schedule up some newsletter swaps for other people so that they can promote my book in their newsletter and I'll promote theirs in mine. I have people share it on Twitter and Facebook, things like that. And then I'll go out to some of the blogs that will announce it, and I'll add it there. And so my basic strategy is just to start out with a low rank and slowly rise it day to day. And if you do this a couple times with some books, you'll notice what raises your rank maybe a big, huge step and what raises it a little more slowly, so that you can figure out your own pace of what to do each day to make sure that you're getting more and more sales each day. So at the end, you have your big promotions and you make that rank rise even more. So that's my basic launch strategy.
Thanks, Victorine. We are all excited to have it because it has been instrumental in helping all of us to be more successful. And when I compare it to what I used to do, there's a huge difference, because I used to click publish and panic and start telling every single person that I knew, go buy it now, go buy it now, it's live, it's live, it's live, with this idea that I could just kind of launch it, literally like get it up to the top and people would see it. And I think it's more like lighting the fuse of all your fireworks and having them all go off at once, and then there's nothing left for the show, right?
Exactly.
And so, yeah, and so I think that one of the things that you touched on was how when you first put it out, that you always get a few organic sales because Amazon puts it up there. And I'm curious if it's because for you, if Amazon knows who some of your readers are and they start promoting it to some people who buy your books a lot. Because I don't have the same effect all the time. I don't know about Amy and Judy, but when I put my book out there, I don't get organic sales very easily, like 2 or 3 or 4 even a day. I don't know how many you get normally. But
hey, Michelle, can I jump on for a second?
Yes. I was hoping you guys would chime in.
When we started talking about this launch strategy last summer when we were writing our billionaire books, there's a YouTube person and an author who wrote a book about launching your book, and we took his advice and kind of tweaked it for ourselves. So if you haven't read it yet, it's Chris Fox. He's got some really good self-publishing books I would recommend you go grab. And he's on Kindle Unlimited, which is awesome because then you can just read it for very, very inexpensively. But he talks about this whole Amazon algorithm. He was based in California in the hub of where all of these startup companies were. And he was rubbing shoulders before he became a full-time writer with people from Amazon and chatting with them and asking them how it is that you get into Amazon algorithms. So if you want more in-depth information, I definitely suggest chatting with Chris Fox. But he talked about how if you do what you used to do and you used to tell everyone you know, go buy my book, Amazon's whole goal is to sell everything. Whatever people want, they will sell. So people will say, well, why doesn't Amazon promote just Amazon books? Why are they promoting everybody's books? Because it's Amazon publishing company. Because to me, I don't think Amazon cares. Amazon's just like, if people like this, I will sell it and I will show it to more people. So if you have a book and your grandma buys it, but your grandma also bought how to knit and how to plant, azaleas in your backyard, and then your book, Amazon has no way of linking any of those things together. So they'll start to show people your book maybe that also bought these other books that your grandmother bought. But if they don't pick it up, Amazon goes, oh, well, that was obviously a dud. So they stop showing it. They want a pathway basically to, if you show people who have bought this book, these other books, show them my book, they will buy my book. Is that confusing? Yeah, it's probably confusing. But so they want to have all of these similarities in the types of buying things because that's all they're doing. It's strange when you start researching how to do Facebook ads or Amazon ads, or you start learning more about Amazon algorithms. How much all of our information is put into a data like mixing bowl, and they mix it all up and they figure out how to get you to buy more things. And so that's basically what Amazon wants. How do I get people to buy this book? And they will start to show it, like Victorine and you said. I don't know if I get a ton of bots at the beginning, but I will put my book out there and it'll be at like 25,000 in the store, which is decent if you think about how many books there are in the store. That the first day it comes out, I'm getting sales on it already.
Yeah. So I'm a little bit more insecure, I think, about it. And I think a lot of people that are following us are probably going to be a little bit insecure about getting a few organic sales at the beginning because, there are people, you can publish a book. I've done it several times and not gotten any sales like for weeks or months, and so part of that is definitely writing to market is going to really help to put it in front of people who are going to say, yes, that's what I want and buy it. So that's where the whole writing to market thing comes in. But as far as launch strategy, something that I found works really well for me, it's like Amy's talking about, when you want people, when you want Amazon to show people your book, then you need to show them that it's relatable to something else, right? And so one of my strategies that I've developed, and I've talked about it briefly before, is I have a few key people that I know buy clean romances and that their purchase history is full of clean romances, which is what I'm putting out there. And they're people that are on my team, and I can say, my book is published. I want you to buy it tomorrow. I know they're going to buy it anyway, but I'm going to say, hey, I want you to buy it on this date, not like a week from now, because it's going to help me today. So I will line up a few people, and one of them's my sister, one of them's one of my critique partners from years ago, and it's these ladies. We know what these histories are, and so we can say, buy my book, and Amazon is like, oh, look, 2-3 people bought her book today, and all these people love these books. And so that's when Amazon starts generating the also bots at the bottom of my page, and when they show up, they all make sense for my book, and that lets me know that Amazon is also putting my book on those books pages. And that's what we're all trying to do in these early days, is to get Amazon, give them a very clear message about what to do with our book and how to help them sell it for us. So,
yeah. And I even buy my own book because I know, I like books like my own book. So that's another thing to do.
Yes. So we're going to kind of take some of these points in Victorine's launch strategy and break them down just a little bit. But before we do that, we're going to touch briefly on pre-orders, because people have a lot of questions. And there, are different factors to pre-orders that you need to take in consideration. Amy has some experience that she'd like to share with us about it.
I was going to say, Judy, actually, I first download it from KU. And then after a couple of days, I go back and buy the book. So I get double.
Oh, nice.
Double support.
Yeah. Read through all the pages too. Make some more money.
Make sure that there's no typos in there. Yeah. Anyways, okay. So I will share with you my pain of pre-orders and why I don't do them anymore. So my first billionaire book I put out, I thought, okay, I'm going to do a pre-order. And if you are going to do a pre-order, the only way I suggest doing it is a week before your book goes live. But you have to make sure that your book is ready to go and that you upload your final manuscript like 3 days before. And Amazon does a good job of warning you. You have 72 hours up, and they literally will have a time ticking down saying, if you do not get your manuscript here by this time, we will send it out to all the people who bought it, and you will get not a lot of happy people. And you have to be very careful with what you do with pre-orders. So I scheduled a pre-order for one of my first my teen book. Then I contacted, I didn't even finish setting it up. I had just clicked, yes, I want to do a pre-order, and then went to the next page. And then I was talking to Victorine, and she said, no, I don't do pre-orders. So then I canceled that. And then I was doing a lot of research from other people, and they were like, try it, do a pre-order. So I was like, okay. So I went back to Amazon to try to do one, but because I had stopped my pre-order, I canceled it. Amazon cut me from pre-orders. So I had to call and talk to a bunch of people and say, why am I stopped from pre-orders? I didn't even put one up. It wasn't even live. So they finally they gave me back that access, but they're very, very picky because they don't want people to have a pre-order, have a bunch of people sign up and pay, and then have them canceled. Now Amazon has all these angry people and they have to refund all this money, and it's just a lot of work. So if you're going to do a pre-order, make sure you take that into consideration. My first billionaire book did really well. It was the best of any of my billionaire books. And all I did was I put a pre-order out. I didn't tell anyone, and I just put some Facebook ads on it because I was like, I'm an unknown author. No one knows about me, and I'm just going to get some organic sales. And so if you look at my climb on that book, it was a pretty steady climb. I think maybe I went down for a day or two, but then I came back up. And then when I released it, it was that you want this like line to go, and then it kind of just evens out. That's what you want. And so it did really well. I think I sold 50 books through that. I've noticed Facebook ads really do well for 99-cent books. Once you start asking for more, you get less people, you get less buy through. So that did really well. And that book was live for a while. I got a smart URL at the back of the book to link my next book to it, because what you can do is you put the link there, and then you can go back to the page and you can change that link, and then it transfers where they go. And I can explain it at another time or write a post about it on the writing podcast. Yeah, sorry. But anyways, it will show you how many people click on it. And I was noticing I was like 100, 125 people. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is 125 people that I am losing out money on getting. So I was like 10% away through the book. And so I was like, I'm going to slap up that pre-order. So I put up the pre-order and I sold really well for like a week or two when my book people gone through. But of course, my first book starts dwindling down. So the pre-orders in my second book started dwindling down. And if you see my graph, it goes like this, and up and down and up and down and up and down, up and down. And then I released it and it didn't do as well. It didn't go as high as the first book. And I wonder if it's because your pre-orders on Amazon do not add to your rank. It's not like I think iBooks and a bunch of other ones will total up your sales and they will let your first day count, and so it'll spike your rank high. Amazon doesn't do that. So if I had all these people who were very interested in my first book went through and bought the next book, if they would have been those first people to buy my book, or Amazon would have showed them when the book finally was released at the beginning. So excuse me. So I was like, okay, I learned my lesson. But then of course I was like, so my third book, I wonder if I could put a pre-order for $2.99 if people would buy it. So I put up my pre-order for $2.99 and I started getting sales and more sales and more sales. And I can't remember how many I got. But then as my book started getting closer to release date, I was like, okay, my rank, of course, was doing this. But then it started to go down. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to change it to 99 cents a couple days before my book's going to release, because then it's going to help pop me back up. Which you should never do, because Amazon guarantees the lowest price of the pre-order item. So now I think it was like $600 I was going to get when my pre-order went live. Zoop, all the way down. I lost $400. And because I lost all that money I had sold. So that was painful. That kind of hit me hard in the gut. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. And I was
like,
oh,
sick for a couple days.
I was like, how could I do that? Why don't they warn you? They should have like a big red, do not change your price unless you're sure you want that. So anyways, so then after that, I said no more pre-orders. I'm not doing them anymore. I'd rather have that control of the slow builds of the first pre-order. It's nice to see people do the read through and pre-order it. But honestly, if you do what we say at the beginning, you should be just fine. You know, obviously there's a caveat that it may not be, because the writing gals don't have that glass ball to look into and to tell you that it's going to be great. But we all have released books and we all have done significantly well with this launch strategy. Also, though, Amazon changes. So who knows if this is going to be good advice in a year. So we just kind of have to go with that ebb and flow. So pre-orders, if you're going to do it, a week ahead, and that is it. And if not, just don't mess with them.
Basically, proceed cautiously. And we're always looking for, like Amy said, what's working now. I will say for pre-orders, one thing that a lot of authors use it for is to build up their orders over time. If they're going for, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're going for like a USA or New York Times list, then they will put their book up for pre-order 8 months ahead of time, because they've got to get orders on all the retailers and on Amazon and just build up as many as they can. And so they promote it for a long time to really build up those sales. And I know it works for that. I know pre-orders are successful for a lot of people, but we're talking specifically about how to get the slow rise in rank when you launch and how to be able to have control over that system. And pre-orders throws a kink in all of that. So we're saying we're not recommending that you use it if you follow this launch strategy. Everybody agree with that? Because I know there are a lot of authors that really like pre-orders and have success with them, but for the purposes of what we're doing here, that's our advice. So we're going to talk about newsletters now, just really quickly, because people have a lot of questions about newsletters. Everybody's always shooting in the dark trying to figure out what to do with these things. First of all, do you need a newsletter? Anybody want to talk about that? Who wants to go first? Because we're all like, yes, should we just say, yes, you need a newsletter? Go ahead, Judy.
Yes, you need a newsletter. And the best time to get a newsletter if you don't have one is now. Even if you don't have a book published, it's a great way to build up your.
It's like a tree. They say, when should you plant a tree? And it's today or 20 years ago. Yeah. So get a newsletter today or 2 years ago, because this is the time to have one.
Yeah, definitely. Like I got one 4 months before my first book even came out. And so I had people that were ready to buy my book when it did come out. So definitely do it. And you want to make, keep them engaging, and a great way to get them, if you happen to have like a little novella that you can use for a reader magnet, that's a great way to get people to sign up. I don't have one of those yet, so I basically just advertise it on my website, and then in the back of all my books, and then on my Facebook author page. So just put that link to your newsletter everywhere. I don't know if you want me to talk about where to go to start that, or does someone else? Okay. So there are quite a few newsletter services that you can use. And the one that I use is MailerLite. It's been really good for me, but I know some of these ladies use MailChimp. So you can do that. And they do offer it for free for like the first 1,000 or 2,000 subscribers, depending on which service you choose. And it's pretty simple. It's not too difficult. And another thing that I have done to make my newsletters better is I have followed a bunch of other authors' newsletters just to get an idea on the kind of posts that readers are interested in. And just because when I first started, I had no idea what they were. And so that's really helpful as well. Just read a lot of newsletters in your genre from authors who have big newsletters, and just do what they're doing.
Hey, Judy, somebody on the Facebook question asked, how do you build up your newsletter without any books out?
Well, I did Kindle Scout, so that's how I started, but just like tell your friends about it, put it on your website. I don't know, just tell everyone.
Yeah.
I would say maybe you could do a giveaway, a $10 Amazon gift card if you sign up for my newsletter and you could also put up 10% of your book on a lot of like Insta Freebie and Book Funnel. That's how I built up my newsletter, was getting people to read the first 10%. And then you get, or more organic people, because I figured if they're willing to just get 10% of my book, then they're willing to probably buy it when it comes out. So that's what I did until I think out of all of us, I'm the only one. I have like a 10,000 word story. It's really short. But I wrote it as a short story, and then I just expanded on it a little bit, and then I have it up. And I was telling them, since September, I have given away 428 copies of this, because you can use Book Funnel. I use Book Funnel, and then it will tell you how many claims and where it's from. So from the back of my books, I have had 428 people join my newsletter. And these are people who are finding or who are clicking through, getting that extra book, and then signing up for my newsletter, because I think it tells them that you keep their newsletter or you keep their email. And that's kind of more how I want readers who are going to be more wanting my stuff, instead of, you can do promotions through different sites, but then you get a lot of like unsubscribers that happen that way, because some people just want free stuff and they're not going to go through and buy your books after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel there's a strong value to having readers that like your writing on your newsletter versus, just a lot of people that may never look at anything you write again. So I have a very small newsletter still, because it's growing organically from links in the back of my book and on my website. And I do have on my to-do list to do a reader magnet in the near future to try and build that up. But I think one thing that a lot of people are going to want to hear about is doing newsletter swaps with other authors when you have a very small newsletter. And that's something, that seems really one-sided. And So in my experience, authors are really willing to swap with people that have small newsletters. We like each other and we like to help each other out, but also we like to give our readers good books, to recommend things that are similar to ours that we know they'll like and keep them happy between our releases. Does anybody else want to?
Well, I also think too, Michelle, that once you have, even if you have a newsletter of 50 people, but all those 50 people click on your links and buy through, that is much more valuable than having a 4,000 list where only, 5% or 10% are going to go click and buy through, because then you're paying to keep these email addresses that just don't do anything for you, because as the more subscribers you get, the more expensive all of these websites get. But Victorine, you should talk about what you did for your second billionaire book. Or was it your third?
Oh, I put it out before it was actually all the way done as a reader magnet for my subscribe list. So a couple people have said reader magnet, and if you don't know what that is, that means you are giving a free book or a free novella or even a short story to people in exchange for them signing up for your website. So what I did was I took a book, my billionaire book, I think it was my second one, and I put it up on, is it Insta Freebie, I think, is where I put it. And you just put it up there, and you can make it so that people who want to download it will sign up for your newsletter in exchange for the free book. And so that got me, I would say, probably 500 people signing up for my newsletter. I think I had it up for 2 weeks.
Right. You had it up when it was at the editors. And then because you cannot have your full book up once you're enrolled in Select, because Amazon gets very upset.
I did have a big sign on it saying this is an advanced reader copy that is unedited, so that people would know that it was at the editors at that point.
Yep. So I was talking with some of my other writer friends today, and one of them was looking at starting a newsletter because she's looking at publishing a book soon. And so we were talking about it, and sometime during the discussion, I said, yes, please build your newsletters. That's awesome, because I want to use your newsletter. And I think that is what is a potential kind of like breakthrough for new authors, is to build relationships with other authors who have promotional power, right? So someone else I saw on a post, she said that the writers she's seen be successful are those who have built a community around them, of support, and they get, these close ties with people, because it gives us a lot more reach than any of us can ever get with one newsletter. If I can reach my newsletter and Victorine's and Amy's and Judy's, that's a lot more buying power in those 4 newsletters combined than I have in mine. And they have my newsletter. So we share that with each other. And if we have the same kind of books, then it works for us. For example, if one of us wrote, does anybody know why we have the echo?
It might be me. I'm sorry.
We're so low tech still. So if one of us wrote steamy romances, for example, it might be harder for us to swap with each other because our readers wouldn't necessarily be looking for the same thing. And that's something I'm kind of facing as I'm looking at publishing a Regency romance, and as I'm looking at publishing a fantasy romance. I don't know what the crossover would be with the clean contemporary romance readers. And so I am needing to reach out and start where a lot of you are starting, from scratch, and build my relationships and build my newsletters for those particular readers. So it's a skill.
Hey, Michelle.
Yeah.
Can I pop on for a second?
Please, yes.
Okay. So I actually have 2 separate newsletters for my 2 pen names. So I have one for Anne Marie Meyer and one for Amy Lindaberry. And truth be told, I give the same book away to both groups of people because it's more of an NA book. It's called Love Under Contract. It's a Swan Princess inspired novella. So I figured it could reach both audiences. So that was a good way for me to gain readers in both areas. And so what I'll actually do for my launch strategy for either books, but really just for my Anne Marie, because that's one I'm focusing more writing through, is I will actually send my new book out to my YA list. And I'll say, hey, I just wrote this book. It's from my pen name. If you're interested in it, grab it. And I'll actually have a decent number of people who will buy through and get that book as well. So it's, but when I do my strategy, I do that way at the beginning. No, I do that at the beginning, but once my also bots have populated, because you want to be careful to only pick authors who are similar to yours. So what I also did and have continued to do is I check out the authors that are selling really well. And I find them if they're self-published. Normally you scroll down and you can see who's published it. If it's Amazon that's published it, most likely they're indie. And if they're in Kindle Unlimited. I don't think a lot of traditionally published people are in Kindle Unlimited. But then I'll just go to their author website. I'll find their email address and I'll just shoot them an email and I'll just say, hey, I write similar to you. I would love to swap newsletters. I have a small one, but it's growing. And most times I've yet to have someone come back to me and say, no, or not even respond. I have people who, writing is such a lonely thing. And, if you can find other like-minded people like you, I think we all want to be part of, like what Michelle said, is that community.
Yeah, and it's an investment, right? Like, pretend that I had an enormous newsletter and an author came to me with a small one and wanted to swap with me. It would be worth the investment because they're going to grow. Down the road, they're going to keep growing. So don't ever look at yourself as somebody who's not worthy of asking other authors to swap with them, because, it is something that give and take both directions. Let's move on from newsletters. Oh,
can I just say one thing real quick?
After Judy talks.
Sorry. And then even if you're just getting started and you don't know other authors to ask, you can find Facebook groups that are all about that. Like there's the Young Adult and Clean Romance, it's Victorine's group. So I have an author promotion group that I've gone to a few times and just, post on it saying, hey, I have this book coming out, wondering if anyone wants to swap. And then I usually get around like 5 to 10 people wanting to swap me just off of that. So that's a good way to get started, especially if you are more shy like me.
There's also a website called Book Boast, BOOKBOAST. You sign up, and I think every month you get 10 free requests. Basically, people list their newsletters, the sizes, and what they'll take. And then you put your books up, and then you can just say, will you do my book at this day? Will you do my book at this time? And they can accept or decline. And I think you get like 10 or 15 per month free. So that's another place you can check out if you're looking for newsletter swaps.
Yep. Or just be completely brave like Amy and ask lots of people. What I do is I let Amy ask people, and then I ask the same people if they agree. Yes. That's kind of what I do. Okay, so let's talk about reviews, because reviews are such a big deal, right? We are learning, however, maybe they're not quite such a big deal. That's kind of becoming our group philosophy. So number one, let's all touch very quickly on our review teams, what we use them for and how we get them. Anybody want to start?
I can start.
Great.
I learned about review teams from a conference I went to when one of the agents was speaking, and she talked about the street team strategy that traditional publishers do. And what they do is they gather up as many people who are bloggers or who have some kind of influence in whatever genre this book they're trying to promote is, and they give out as many copies, advanced reader copies, as they can, and they try and gather up this street team to shout about this book and to put up reviews and basically create a buzz about a new book. And I said, what a great idea. I'm going to do that. So I went home and I had a book coming out soon. And so I went on Facebook and I just said, does anybody want a free copy of my new book coming out soon? You can have an advance copy if you will agree to allow me to put you on this mailing list. Basically, I just gathered up all their emails and put them on this mailing list. And so I had their email for next time when another book came out and the next time. And so I've kind of gathered this up through first starting with my own little circle. And then later on, I asked other authors who write the same genre as I do. And I said, would you mind talking about my advanced reader copy book in your team's circle? And would you promote this free copy to your people who review for you? And so I have a pretty decent group now, over 300 people who I will post to and say, here's a link, you can grab a copy of this book. And then I bug them about reviews or shouting about the book and creating a buzz about it when it comes out. And I do this according to my launch strategy. So I have them wait to shout about it until day 3 or 4 or 5. So I know I'm growing that rank slowly. But if you don't have anybody on your Scream team or on your review team, what I would do is just ask some authors who you know that write similar to you do and say, do you have a review team? Would you be willing to offer my free book to them in exchange for joining my team? And I had authors who were very willing to do that for me. So I would say that's a great way to join, to grow your review team. But like Michelle was saying, I wouldn't put too much stress on reviews because there is no magic. Once you get this many reviews, then Amazon will promote your book. It's not like that. Amazon will promote your book if you have a really good sell-through rate, meaning if it can see that people are clicking on it, looking at it, and then going on to buy it. And that all has to do with writing to market. So it has nothing to do with reviews. So I wouldn't really stress about reviews.
Yeah, there's an indie legend that when you get to 50 reviews, then, buyers fall from the sky. And it just doesn't happen. So what we have all figured out is that to have a handful of reviews as soon as you can within like the first week or so, and that's why it's good to have a team, because you can get a handful of reviews going, just so that readers do have something to click on and get a feel for what other readers have thought of your book. Also to allow you to get to be accepted by different promotion sites who require you to have a certain number of reviews. Usually it's like at least 4 to 5 or 10. They all kind of have their different numbers, but it's good for that. I do think though that at a certain point, just stop worrying about it. Do what you can as a business person to encourage readers to leave some in the beginning, and then just let it be organic. Let it do its thing. I've seen a lot of books that have over 100 reviews that are newer books, and within a month or so, their rank is, falling down sharply or is quite low. Reviews don't do anything to keep your rank up or to bring buyers in. It's kind of good decoration, and but it doesn't actually sell your book as well as you think it does. So just don't stress about it is what we're saying.
Yeah, we found that writers care a lot more about the reviews than the actual readers. So like I've seen this book that's been on the young adult top 100 since like October, and I think it has like three reviews still, and it's still selling really well. So
yeah, I was going to say the contrary is true too. We see books that are ranked really high for long periods of time and don't have tons of reviews. Mm-hmm. So reviews are not a paycheck in your pocket, right? Okay, so basically,
can I say something about my team? So I actually changed how I have my advanced reader copies. So I did the same thing as Victorine did. I posted it on a page, and I think somebody graciously shared with their advanced reader copy team, which I was really grateful for. I went from like a small ARC reader group of like 10, and I exploded up to 400. So that was amazing. But then once the reviews started coming in, most of the time I will send out an unedited copy of my advanced reader copy. Is mostly, here's my book, it's at the editor's, it's going to be cleaned up. And I think sometimes the advanced reader copy people don't know that. And so I started getting reviews about the editing. And then a couple of people were talking about how, yeah, it was a nice book. But then when I looked at her, because I stalk people who live my reviews, it's terrible, I know. She had a lot of more steamier and spicier books. So I didn't like that feeling of not being able to have a conversation with my advanced reader copy people. I wanted to have a relationship with them, which is kind of good and also not good, because a lot of people don't put stock in the 5-star reviews because they're like, well, that's probably just her grandma or her aunt that wrote it. And most of the time, if they're going to look at your reviews, and most time they won't, they're going to be looking at your 1-star or 2-star reviews and seeing what people have said about it. And I know for me, I'll go on a book and I'll read those and I'll be like, oh, I wonder if that's true. Now I want to buy the book so I can read it and see if that reviewer was accurate. So also know that 1 or 2 or 3-star reviews can also sell your book as well. So what I did is I was also paying for these emails, and I was only getting 10, maybe 5% of my advanced reader copy people actually leaving reviews. So I decided to pull my newsletter, and I just started a Facebook group, and I told everybody on that email list, I said, if you still want to receive my books, join me on my Facebook page. And so I had maybe 20 or 30 people from that 400 actually do that, because I figured if they're going to click over, they want to be invested. They're going to be there. And then I just do everything from my Facebook group. Don't do a Facebook page, because Facebook will make you pay to promote things on your page. Now they're like, money. So of course, so do your group. And then I post my book funnel link there. I'll post the Scream picture for once my book comes out and I want them to scream about it. I make it as easy as possible. I say, click share to your friends, bam, it's done. So none of this back and forth and going to an email, going to Facebook. I just find that works better for me. And I have a smaller group of people. I start out with maybe 5 or 6 reviews. And then I'm like, okay, no more reviews. I don't need any more. Just don't come in, because you terrify me every time I read one or I go on and I go, oh no, what did someone say now? Because I am one who reads my reviews.
Yeah, I think I read my reviews too much. But so since we started talking about it, it made me think of a lot more things to mention. So this is where our podcasts get kind of long. So my particular Scream team, it is fairly small, but I have people coming in organically that just request me on my team because they've read my book and somehow tracked me down, I guess. And I like my group being small because I build a relationship with them, like you said, and I know who they are and they know who I am. I think the important thing with review groups is that you do over on Regency House Party, we have figured out that even Facebook doesn't even communicate with all your people in your group pages anymore either. It's getting harder and harder to contact people and get them to see your posts, even on the group pages. And so what I tried last time I sent out an art copy to my Scream team is I actually did an event within my group. So I set up art copy event for this book. And that sent it out to all the people in my group. And so I got a much better response and a lot more people that were able to go and see my post and download the link. So that's just kind of like something I've learned, is to do an actual event within your group to announce that the art copy is available, because Facebook lets it be more visible that way. Another thing I was going to mention that Victorine didn't bring up that she awesomely has taught us is that a lot of us are worried, like, I only have like 10 friends that are going to buy my book when it goes out, so why would I give them a free copy? Then I don't have anybody that's going to buy my book. And the thing we all have to understand is that the rewards you're going to get from those art copies are more than the sales will be in a lot of cases. And for me, a lot of those same people are still going to buy my book when it comes out. It surprises me how many people I give a free advance copy to who still go and tell me, I just bought it today. And I'm like, why'd you buy it? I just gave you a free copy. But they want to support me. They say, I like to support my friends and authors that I like. And so also it pays dividends when they're going out and they're telling other people about your book. So treat them well. They do amazing things for you, and it's going to bring in, better rewards for you or returns for you than having them go and buy your book. Anybody else on reviews before we move on? Nope. Okay. So you can see on our Writing Gal Facebook page, we share our launches on there a lot. Amy and I both, and I think Victorine's done it before, but maybe not as much detail. I'm not sure. But we go on day by day, say what we've done, what it's done with our rank, all that sort of stuff. So you can go and see that on our Facebook page if you want to follow our launch strategies. But I think the big thing is learn what we're trying to show you so that you can be preparing for it ahead of launch, because the day you hit publish is not the day to be doing it. And we know how hard that run up to your publishing date is. You're so busy writing and editing and proofing and hearing back from editors, and the stress of just getting everything pulled can make you kind of stop figuring out your strategy. And so we're saying it's really important to take the time to put the effort in ahead of time. So I think we're going to go to Amy, who can tell us some of the Facebook questions that we've gotten that people want to know about launch strategies.
Okay, so the first question is from Julia, and she said, what is something that you make sure to do every time you launch a book? And what is something you've learned is overrated during a book launch? So I will just say mine too quickly. I would say reviews are overrated, I believe. And just as we talked, why they are. And something I do every time I make sure I launch a book is contact other people to swap newsletters. And I'm going to start now doing paid promotions, because I really think that's what took my book over the top. I think each time I had an e-news reader today and a bargain booksy. And I think each time I sold about 90 copies of my 99-cent book, plus whatever I had in downloads in KU. So those are really going to be an instrumental part of my launch strategy.
Perfect. I'm going to say exactly what Amy said, but I will add to that. I found, and sorry if I hurt anybody's feelings, I found launch parties on Facebook just are not worth it. They are not worth it. So I have stopped doing that completely. And if you beg me to come to yours, I'll probably be nice and come, but I will probably grumble under my breath about it because I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, if I was going to add something else that I think is overrated, it's blog tours. I think that they can add some hype and maybe bring you some more readers, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. And so if you're just looking at return on investment, I don't think the blog tours pay off in the end, because over the years as I've watched, I have not seen the return from, someone posting on their blog somewhere. Even if they've got a lot of followers, it's just not worth the time to me. But I will say that my Scream Team investment is more than worth it. So that is where I like to invest a lot of time, is giving them a lot of opportunities to tell people about my book.
Yeah, I'm just going to say I agree with all of you, and then add that for my first 2 books, I did a Goodreads giveaway of the paperback copy of those books. And yeah, I had a lot of people put it on their to read list, but I think it's still on their to read list. So yeah, I got I know that one person that got the giveaway of my first book, she did read it and review it, but I don't.
And now they're charging for it. I think Goodreads is charging to do giveaways now, an extortionate amount of money.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely moved into the never again category for most authors that look at it. Good point. Amy, what do we have next?
Oh, I was going to say, and I avoid Goodreads like the plague. I don't go on there because people are mean. They are so mean. And I just my heart pounds every time I get an Amazon review. I'd have cardiac arrest if I went on Goodreads. So I just stay away from there. It's just it's my no list. Don't go on Goodreads.
I still go on there.
Bad for authors. Oh,
no, I went on there today.
People are mean to me, so I just stay away.
I
and
have
I
had
also say
breakdown or two off of Goodreads, but I do still occasionally, if I get really bored at night, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go look, and I quite often regret it.
Yeah, no. I don't like Goodreads. I think it's great for readers, and that's awesome, but I do not go on there. I stay away. I would also say that the most successful thing I have found on Facebook to help with the launch are Facebook ads. And there's a lot of classes and courses you can take out about them. We could do a whole podcast about Facebook ads. But even with Screen Team and Facebook promotions from them, I don't get nearly the same return. And we also have to think everything you do is your time away from writing. So if you're spending all this time setting up Goodreads, setting up blog tours, that's time away from writing your next book, because the #1 bestseller, you've heard this here on the Writing Gals, to promote your book is write another one.
Yep.
That is the one thing you can do. So if you're spending time trying to push this one book up, just let it do its thing, run its course, and start the next one. Because whatever you learn from that first release, you can tweak and change for your next one. So,
Yep.
and Michelle, your billionaire book, tell us. Sorry, I totally took over moderating.
I know, you're just so used to you having this stuff. It's okay.
Tell us your book, your billionaire book, for like a condensed.
How my launch has gone with this billionaire. It's not done nearly as well as yours, but it's done fabulous for me. So
what did it do for your other billionaire book, though?
Yeah, so I was gonna say what's been really great is this has been my best release so far. It's gotten higher in ranking, and it's sustained it a lot longer. So I got into the 400s, like low 400. Did I dip into the 3s? Yeah, I did. I got into the 300s for a little while with this book, which was amazing because my best one was my Christmas book at 638, I think, before that. So it did really, really well for me as far as ranking, and it stayed well. It's still under 1,000. And but the really amazing thing to me is it pulled my first book in the series that I did no promotion on, did not lower the price on it, didn't do anything. It pulled that book from 20,000 something all the way back up to under 3,000. And it's been staying there right along with my first book. And so that is just a, testament to the fact that write, because if you're writing in series especially, but if you're writing to the market, each book is going to pull all your other books back up. And that is the best way to keep them all floating, is to just keep writing.
Did you drop the price of your first book, or did you keep it at $2.99?
I didn't. I kept it at $2.99, and it's been amazing. That's where I'm making all my money, on sales. So with my new book, obviously at 99 cents, when I get a sale, I don't make a lot of money. It's like 35 cents a copy, right? So when I look at my sales column and how much money I'm making on direct sales, the majority of my money is coming from that first book, because I'm making over $2 on that, on every copy I sell.
Do you think it did anything to your Christmas book?
Yeah. It ranks across my whole catalog. It brought everything up, but especially for the one in the same series.
That's perfect, because that goes into our next question. What are your thoughts on series versus standalone books when it comes to what sells and readers buying your other titles when a new release is out? For instance, would it be unwise to only have standalones? Do readers seem to gravitate more towards series? And I think me and Victorine have a complete series and have moved on to a second series. And I would say readers love series, especially in two different ways. Both Victorine and I have standalone books in a series. And then I am trying a series that's kind of a spin-off, which is with similar characters in that group. And then writing books about them where they have a common theme, which is a location, opposed to my billionaires, which the common theme was the trope. I would say that I don't think the sales or the releasing of a new series has that same effect on a previous series. I don't know, maybe Victorine can kind of tell us, because even though my marrying book is doing so well, I'm watching my billionaire book slide into 20,000. And I'm sure if I released another billionaire book, it would bring them all back up. But I don't think one series can affect another one as the same as if you were to release a standalone book, what that would do to the rest of your books in a series. However, I do post all my books, even in my pen name, in the back of every single one of my books. And I do see when I release a book, a spike in my YA books. It's not much, but I will start seeing some pages read and maybe a buy here and there. And I honestly think it just comes from the back of my book, because there's no other reason why it would be doing that. So why don't we have Victorine go ahead and tell us what she thinks.
Yeah, I agree with you, Amy. I have released standalone books as well as books in a series, and definitely the series will boost each other's sales way more than standalone books or even books in the same genre, but a different series, because people love the tropes that they love. And some people love the billionaire trope and not so much the fake marriage trope. So I see not a ton of crossover, a little bit, like Amy said, a little bit of a boost here and there, but mostly in the series, it really helps boost the other books in the series. But with romance, you can't really continue a story from one book to another. You have to find a different way to create a series. So like Amy said, do the same location, different characters each time, but same location. Or you could tie in characters, like talk about each brother in a family or something like that. Or like I do, I just carry a trope and do that for my series. So that's what we do.
Yep. I concur. What else do we have, Amy?
Sorry, I was just waiting for you all to answer. I was going to say something else, but I can't remember what it was. Okay, so what is the typical changes a right-to-market book has after the first week until the next book is written? In other words, where does the rank usually settle after the initial buzz? And Victorine, why don't you talk to us about the 30, 60, 90-day cliff that Amazon has?
Yeah, a lot of authors have just watched their rank really closely and have noticed after 30 days on kind of on a similar plane, you see a drop in rank, and then over the next 30 days, you kind of settle in, and then you see another drop. After the 90 days, it seems to kind of fall off, and you kind of just settle in, and you kind of become sticky, and it can be different for each book, really. My married books kind of stick around 20 to 30,000 if I'm not really promoting them. And I bet if I didn't promote, they would slide even more. But I usually try to get a promotion in every couple of months by putting something free and then buying up some ads about it. But I would say, depending on your genre, depending on, how you write, even, it depends on where it falls to. So I wouldn't say there's just one place that every book falls to. Every book is different, and every book settles in a little bit differently.
Does anyone want to add? Judy, go ahead.
Oh, I just say I agree. I think every book is different, and because like in my Ridgewater High series, my first book that I released in that series, it settled around like the 2,000 to 3,000 range for the first few months, and then my one that I released a month ago, it's already sitting at 6,000. So it's just as different, and my blurb was not nearly as good, so I just changed that. So hopefully it'll get better. But yeah.
And I think as well, for me and my experience is that books later on in the series don't ever do as well as the first one. And I just think it's because if people are going to take a risk on your book, read it, you're going to have a percentage of those people who will never buy another book in that series again, just because they didn't connect to your voice, they didn't connect to the way you wrote. So then that will slowly, I think it's pretty consistent though. I think you'll get that first drop off, but then I think most readers will carry you through all the way through the series. I was going to say the cool thing about using smart URL, Google it, you'll find the website, and it'll walk you through how to set it up. But I actually have that in the back of my Marrying a Cowboy book right now for both books. So I have a branch off from my first book. One is the cowboy trope that I'm taking, where I'm using a similar location. And the second one is my fake marriage series. So nothing to do with any of the characters in the previous book, but the only thing that connects them is the trope. So I put both of those in the back of my book with a smart URL. I can't say that fast. URL, taking them to my Amazon author page. Because as soon as my book goes live, then I'll go onto the URL website and change that link to go to the Amazon page. So every book that has that smart URL link will automatically switch over to that Amazon bot page. So I've been watching what people do because, like I said, they track clicks. And I am interested to watch what my buyers do because I'm always in the mood to gather information. I want to know what my buyers do, what causes them to do certain things. So now I have my next book in the Cowboy series as the first book on the page that they see. And I have higher clicks for that book than the fake marriage series. It could be because it's the first one and they click and then they see, oh, it's just our Amazon author page. They don't go back. And then the only ones that do go back would go on to click the next one. Maybe that's it. I could always stop it in 2 weeks and switch the order and then see what happens. But perhaps maybe what my readers like are the cowboy series and they're more likely to read, because I think it's about half of the clicks or half of the amount of clicks that I'm getting for the cowboys, I'm getting for the fake marriage. So if I'm getting 28 for the cowboys, I'm only getting 14 for the fake marriage. So that's telling me, oh, my readers really want cowboys. I'm gonna write more of those and slowly put out more fake marriage series. So there's lots of ways or things that you can use to kind of track what your readers do, and that can help you determine which avenue you want to go on. Did you want to say something, Michelle?
No, nope.
Oh,
I was
okay.
gonna say, do we have any more questions on Facebook?
Yeah, we have one more. Or actually, do you guys have any suggestions for people who don't write romance? Do you think that what we talked about, can be used across all genres?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the launch strategy works the same because it's all about Amazon algorithms and not about genre. And I also think, the same thing exists within every genre community as far as, newsletter swaps and building scream teams and all the points we talked about. Just apply it to your genre and it's going to be the same. Now, I don't know. It might be possible that people who write thrillers and stuff may not be as, as friendly as romance readers. I can't ever tell because maybe one's more dominated by reclusive men or women who dislike other authors. I can't guarantee that every genre is going to be as welcoming as romance. I'm like probably making a million enemies out there. But I do know that within the romance community, it definitely is very welcoming to building relationships. And I know that fantasy is, and I know that the ones that I have personal experience in, authors like other authors, and they like to build relationships and they like to build communities. So, yeah. Now I'm going to have thriller writers being like, we're not grumpy old men and we like other people.
Or they'll just kill you off in their books.
I know. They know how to do
They'll name the character Michelle and then
they're the ones with the scary Google searches.
Hey, Michelle, you talked about that blogs are not effective. So we had a question that said, what about big name book bloggers?
Okay, so I think they can definitely give you, access to their people. And, the more times your book is in front of someone else, the more likely it is to buy it. I'm not saying don't do it. It can be very effective, especially if you can get with, some of the really good ones out there. But, and they leave reviews, and there a lot of times their reviews are seen in more places, so more people will hear about your books because they'll hear about it. People follow reviewers on Goodreads, so you can get a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm a writer, but my brain is dead, exposure with book blogs. I'm not saying you can't. What I am saying is that, there have been times in different books that I've put out where I've spent days looking for book blogs, contacting, emailing, sending my thing, trying to schedule it. I know that there are services that will do it for you, but you have to pay. So you're either spending your time or you're spending your money to get your book out to all these different blogs. And that's just to make the appointments to do it. Then once you do it, unless they're all going to post exactly the same information you've given them, then you're going to have the work of, is this person going to want to do an interview? Are they going to ask you the same questions as everybody else? Or are they going to ask you their own questions? Are they going to want to do, all these different kinds of posts that they can do? And you could end up spending a week of your time just preparing the posts for all the different blogs that have signed you up. And so the time is just crazy for these book blogs. And that is what we're all talking about, is our author time is gold. The time that we can spend writing is so precious and so valuable that be really, really careful what you're spending it on. And I know it works really well for some traditional publishing companies to do these big blog tours, and maybe they've worked for some indies, but across the board, I don't see it as an effective way to spend your time.
I think
And
the
I also-
reason is, sorry, I think the reason is because the really big bloggers with a huge following have such a huge amount of people trying to get in, that trying to get your book on that big blog is like winning the lottery. And so my time is not well spent trying to win the lottery. I'd rather do things that I know work.
And another good point to make is there are very, very few big book bloggers that are indie friendly. It's just the way it is. You know, most blogs that are indie friendly are not big enough to make much of a dent or give you much exposure. I love them.
I know.
I have good friends that are book bloggers, and I value what they do. And I have a few of them that I have good relationships with. That's a completely different thing than me going out and tracking down, 20 book bloggers every time or more.
Okay. So I know we want to keep this podcast short, but I think out of all of our podcasts, this is the one that we should have the most information in or stay on as long as we need to. So I have two more questions that I know have been posed on our writing group. So I thought we would talk about them. We talk about Facebook ads, we talk about book promotion sites, but we haven't talked about AMS ads and if any of us use them. And I know Judy, who's been very quiet tonight, I'm sorry, we all talk too much. I want her to talk about how she uses AMS ads in her launch strategy, because I know she does, and that's something I'm looking at doing once I figure them out.
Yeah, so I set my Ams Ads up pretty much as soon as I release the book. And I just have them going. I will look at a bunch of other books in my genre to see kind of what their ad copy looks like, what they're saying about their books, and then just try to find something similar that I can say about mine, or something that I think that will sell my book in just the few amount of words that they give you to use. And then when I do set them up, I use the sponsored kind of ads. And then when I go in there, they give you the option of letting them choose all the keywords, or if I choose the keywords. And a lot of times the keywords they give me are ones that I don't think would sell my book very well. I haven't tried it yet, so maybe it would. But I usually just set the keywords up myself. And I've done young adult so far, and so the bid that you put for those for young adult is less than you would probably do for adult romance, because there is a lot more of those and it's a lot more competitive. So you just want to kind of play around with the bid. So I normally will have mine set to 15 cents or 25 cents per click, but I know the other romance authors will go sometimes 50% or 50 cents per click. So you just kind of play with that, kind of watch them. And then for the keywords, I just think of a bunch of words that would go along with my book. And then I also will find a lot of authors who write books similar to mine, and I'll put their names in as keywords. And then also I'll put their titles of their books there. And you can always go back in and you can add more keywords as you find more that you think would do well. And I know there are other services that you can use, but I haven't used any of those yet, so I can't really say anything about them. But I know other authors have had a lot of success using them. I think they're something Rocket. But
KDP Rocket.
Yeah, something like that. So, but I really just watch my ads. You don't want to just let them go for a long time and then be surprised, whoa, they're spending a lot of money. But I have mine set to $30 a day, and for one of them, and the others are $10 and $15 a day. And I have 2 ads going for each book, but they never spend that much. They only spend a couple dollars a day. And as long as you're paying attention to them, you can kind of keep track of which keywords are working for you, which ones aren't. And you can turn them off and on, or adjust the bid on those as you see fit. So really what I've done is just play around a lot and just watch what they're doing, and they will tell you the amount of sales that like real sales that you've had based on the ad, but they don't give you Kindle Unlimited download information off of that too. So they could be doing even better than you think, but they show you at least that they're doing what they're selling. And so for mine, I have some that have a 30% CPU. I don't know what that means, but that's a good number. And I have some that are 50%. So as long as it's like around 50%, I consider it a pretty good ad. So as long as I'm making at least twice as much as I'm putting into it, I'm like, oh, that's twice as much money than I would have made otherwise.
So that's definitely a part of your release strategy, is setting up Ams Ads.
Yeah. Sorry, I might have went on to that, but
No, that's okay. No, that's good. That's good. People want to know this kind of stuff. So that's one of the questions. I think we need to do a podcast on Ams Ads because I'm still not sure about it. But Victorine, just 2 seconds, talk about the company that you have.
I am totally AMS ad dumb. So I'm paying a company to do them for me. They're called Book Ads. And so you can Google Book Ads and look them up. And they've been doing good for me so far. So I'm going to keep using them.
Right. She just gives them a budget and then they spend her money for her. And then they report back to her and tell her how they're doing. And she can say no more, or she can say keep going. So so my last question for you guys is price. When do we change our price? Because I think that's the other question we get a ton of times. So I think just maybe keep it short and tell us what your strategy is for when you start to change your price.
So far, I think my strategy has been to set it at 99 cents, and pretty much I don't change it until I fall off the 30-day cliff. That's kind of where I'm aiming for.
Me too. That's what I do.
For me, I have set it at 99 cents. And then when I see that the rank is dropping, then I will put it up. But I still don't know if that's a good idea. So I think you just play around with it. But even with, I had set on my latest book, I had changed it to $2.99. And then when I redid my blurb yesterday, I put it back to 99 cents. So yeah, I just do whatever.
That's good. It's right. That's what's important. Like we said, we try things out and we see if they work, and they don't work, and sometimes they do, and then you go from there. For me, I had I reached 215 in the Kindle store and decided to change my book the next day. And because I didn't know what was going to happen. So I said, well, I might as well try. And if I'm going to go down the slide, I might as well go down at $2.99 instead of 99 cents. Would it, if I kept it there, would that have kept me higher in ranks for longer? Possibly. I'm making this, I know Victory's like, oh, I don't know, maybe. And so keeping your book higher rank gives you more visibility, but you're also making less, you're making less money per book sold. I probably have made the same amount in money either way, because on $2.99 you're making $2, at 99 cents you're making 35 cents. So you have to sell almost 6 times the amount of books to make the same amount in one sold book. So who knows? My thought process was, I'm not done writing books, and I'm hoping that that was not my one-hit wonder and I am all done and tapped out. So I figured, hey, I'll just try it in my next book and I will see what happens. And maybe in my next one, I'll just keep it at 99 cents and just play around with it. Because your best thing, like we said, write another book. Be thinking about your next book. Put it up, your current one up, and then move on. And just keep writing and keep putting books out there. So
and just to muddy the waters a little bit. So looking again at how much money I've made with sales versus Kindle Unlimited, there's it's like I've made 10%. No, it's even less than that. I mean, my percentage of sales to KU reads is just crazy. I make so much more with Kindle Unlimited. I don't even hardly pay attention to what I'm making on books sometimes. So this month already, I've made about I'm right around 750, maybe a little higher now, in the last 4 days, getting close to 800. and like 80 of that is sales. That's, so like I said, about 10% is sales. So to me, keeping the 99-cent price point, if it helps to keep my book floating up higher and giving it more visibility so I can get those Kindle Unlimited reads, then, that's where I'm aiming for. Are people more excited to click on Kindle Unlimited read for free when your book says $2.99? Maybe. I don't know. But there you go. Some more stuff to kind of throw in the blender.
Well, and at 50,000 words, a KU book is normally, depending on how much extra back matter stuff you have, and if people click all the way through, it's normally about a $2 per book read. So if you are keeping more visible, but are at 99 cents, but getting more KU reads, you're going to be making up that money in KU reads. So another thing I do is always research, always try and gather as much information. I follow authors and stock their books to see what their books are doing, and then when they change their prices, and then what happens to their rank, and so on and so forth. So that's always important, especially if you're not a romance genre and we're giving you romance genre advice. Following the people who do well in your genre and trying to copy them or contact them and say, tell me your secrets because I want to be as successful as you. That's all our questions.
There was one other question on the live feed that I will read before we finish. So it was, do you give your Scream team your fully edited version of your book? And if you do, does that 2 weeks you're waiting before launch kill you? And so I'll just answer really quick. I do give them the fully edited version of my book because I've heard other authors saying they always have ARC readers telling them about all the typos, and they're like, oh, it's the editor. It doesn't, it'll be fixed. And so that's just kind of the headache that I prefer to avoid. And then also if the ARC readers do happen to find some typos, then I know my editor isn't going to find them since she doesn't have it anymore. So I know to change those right away. And then with waiting 2 weeks, the first time I did wait the 2 weeks, and it was fine because I'd already told people when my launch date was. So I was like, whatever. The last time I put it up 2 days before launch and only had it up for 2 days that they could download it. And then I took it down and I published. So I didn't have to wait 2 weeks. And I still had reviews when I, was ready to go. So
now I do send out an unedited copy of my book to ARC readers, although I have previously sent it out to beta readers, and a lot of the errors from the beta readers are caught and fixed already. And so it's not completely unedited. I've gone through and edited it myself, but my ARC readers, I try to pound it into them that this is at the editors right now. And so that's why I send it 2 weeks, so that it's being edited while my ARC readers are reading it. And I don't really have a problem with people saying anything about typos and stuff.
Yeah, I send out my copy that is just previous to my proofreader getting it, which means it's gone through the editing process and it just needs to have that final combing. And so I always am sure to tell my Scream team, whoever I give the ARC link to, this is still with my proofreader. So you will find typos. If you want to send them to me, I'm grateful to get them. If you want to make sure I catch them all, I'm happy to take them. I love that, actually. But I still have people that kind of are like, it seems like every single time I have a reader say, before I post my review, I just want to ask, is it still being proofread? Because I noticed some typos. And I'm like, yes, it's with my proofreader right now, or whatever. I just communicate with them as much as I can. And that way they learn, that that's what an ARC is quite often. And then it avoids the problem of it being talked about in my reviews, which is what we're all trying to avoid, is those reviews that say, this book has lots of typos in it, So.
Amen. I'm learning every time I release. So,
Okay. So I think that's all we have to cover tonight. We've been on here for a long time. We'd love to continue the conversation on our Facebook page. If anybody has any further questions or wants to know more, we will keep talking about it as long as you want to, but we're going to say goodnight now. And we're really grateful that you stayed up late with us.